Hey, hi, and hello. Chris here. Thanks for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Today's case file, we're going to be heading over to BC, British Columbia, Canada. And thank you to the subscriber that suggested this one. I always appreciate getting suggestions from you guys. Anyway, you guys, let's just get right into this. So we're in Abbotsford, BC, and Abbotsford is just outside Vancouver, and it is actually considered to be the Bible Belt of Canada. It is stated that there are more churches there per capita than any other place in Canada. And I've actually lived in Abbotsford, and it is actually a really nice town. So as you guys could probably imagine, it's very, very religious based. And it's October 13th, 1995. Friday the 13th, nonetheless. Tanya Smith and Misty Cockrell, both 16 years old, were heading off to a friend's house to go to a party. After the party ended, the girls, well, they really weren't ready to go home yet, so they decided that they were going to go head to another party. While the two girls were walking to the second party, the girls were joking around about the fact that it was Friday the 13th and that's when all the scary shit happens. You know, like guys jumping out of a bush or something. Now, that's not what they said verbatim, but that was the gist of what they were joking around about. Unfortunately for them, this night turned out to be anything but a joke. A man did come from behind some bushes and he was holding a baseball bat. "You bitches want a party?" the man said. The girls stood there frozen with fear when the man grabbed them, forced them into the bushes, and demanded that they take off their clothes. Very scared, Misty just stood there. But Tanya, wanting to comply, did as she was told. The man ordered them to lay on the ground, and that is when he raped Tanya. Misty noticed that he had put down the baseball bat, and she basically thought this was her chance, so she grabbed it and started swinging. She connected with the man's shoulder, but the man grabbed the bat away from her, screaming that she is going to die. The beating that came next was horrific. The man, clearly agitated that Misty tried to fight back, beat her until she was unconscious. He pretty much left her for dead. But thank goodness, she did wake up sometime later, bleeding and so very confused. She felt a rush of hot liquid streaming from her ear, and she later learned that it was a mixture of blood and spinal fluid. She got up, she was dazed and confused. She was looking around but could not find her friend Tanya anywhere. The hospital was actually literally right across the street, so she stumbled over there. She made her way inside and told the hospital staff what had happened. Misty suffered from a broken arm and a broken finger. She also had severe skull fractures. It was a miracle that she was alive. Unfortunately, that was not the case for her friend Tanya. Tanya was later found floating face down in the Vedder River. It was later stated that Tanya's cause of death was drowning. She also suffered a severe beating from her attacker, but was actually alive when he had thrown her into the river. So this attack itself was horrible and so sad and so senseless. But this guy, he was something else. Not only did he attack the girls and kill Tanya, but he ended up actually taunting the police about the crimes. Yeah, taunting the police. Let's talk about what this guy did. The attacker called the police stating, "I'm the killer. Her right nipple tasted so good." And the police knew this was the guy because the killer had actually bitten Tanya on the right breast and left bite marks. But this information was not made public. Another call came to the police. "You guys did a real thorough job, but do you think I would be so stupid enough to leave a fingerprint behind?" 20 minutes go by. He calls again. "Are you having trouble finding the killer?" Each of these calls were traced back to various payphones, but unfortunately each time the police arrived, no one was around. And in my opinion, he was clearly enjoying the back and forth with the police. He seems overly cocky and very arrogant. A week later, there was a funeral for Tanya. And it was later discovered that this guy actually attended the funeral and he took his children with him. Can you even imagine? Like, I can't even. It wasn't over though. A few weeks later, another call came into the police. This time, the call was very detailed on what he did to Tanya. And it was actually so disgusting that I'm not even going to talk about it on this video. It's not even necessary. Not only that, but he was also talking about what he would do to his next victim. Next victim? Are you kidding me? The police rushed to the payphone that the call was traced from, but once again could not see anyone nearby. It was later learned that the killer was actually watching the police from a nearby diner. Oh, he thinks he's so slick, eh, buddy? It's just disgusting. Anyway, time was ticking and the police were getting no further ahead with the investigation, so they actually decided to release some audio from the phone calls in hopes that someone around may recognize the voice. Nobody came forward. The police still had nothing. 4 months go by. A call came into the Abbotsford Radio Max station. The caller said to the DJ to go check the car in the parking lot. Now the DJ, thinking that someone had actually hit the car, went down to the parking lot to see what was going on. And when he went down there, he could not believe what he saw. On the hood of the car was Tanya's headstone that was actually stolen from her grave. Written on the headstone was, "She was not the first and she won't be the last. I'm still looking and you won't find me. One day, Misty." If that wasn't bad enough, there was a circle around Tanya's picture with an arrow through her face with the words, "Yummy tit." And he was clearly getting off by the attention he was getting. And by this point, the police still had no leads, and they actually dubbed him the Abbotsford Killer. 2 days later, he called again, asking if they liked the present that he had left for them, and reminded the police that Tanya wasn't going to be the last victim. When the police rushed to the payphone that the call came from, once again, he was already gone. But this time, there was actually someone that saw him at the payphone. The witness gave the police a description of the man and the car that he had gotten into. A few days go by, and a woman had actually called the police. Someone had thrown a wrench through her front living room window with an envelope taped to it. On the front of the envelope, it read, "From the killer, call 911. Written on the back of the envelope, it said, "From the Abby killer, call 911. Inside the envelope, there was a newspaper clipping with a picture of Misty and the words, "Lucky to be alive," written across her forehead. Also in the envelope was a letter confessing to the rape and murder of Tanya Smith and the assault on Misty Cockrell. The letter also stated that he had assaulted 3 other women in Abbotsford, and he boasted that he had groped a 12-year-old girl and he attacked another girl, hitting her on the head. He also talked about a 3rd victim, which he said he left with a life-threatening head injury. He also included more newspaper clippings of unsolved murders of 3 other women. Linda Tatrier, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Colleen Shook, and Kim Stolberg. All 3 of these women were stabbed to death in 1989. This guy was so arrogant. But remember, when I had mentioned that the killer was taunting the police earlier, saying that he wasn't dumb enough to leave a fingerprint behind? Well, he was dumb. Because of the very edge of the tape that was on the wrench holding the envelope, there was one single fingerprint. So police now had his DNA, a fingerprint, a description, and the voice recordings. With all this new information, they decided to release more voice recordings to the public to see if anybody could recognize the voice. Sitting in her home, Audrey Driver listened to the recordings that the police had released. And I can't imagine how a mother would feel hearing her son on those recordings. But just to be certain, Audrey played the recordings to her other adult children, and they all believed that it was her son Terry Driver. She called the police. After matching the one fingerprint found on the piece of tape, Terry was arrested in May of 1996. They had plenty of evidence stacked up against him. So who was this Terry Driver? Well, he was just a 31-year-old married man, father of 2 small children. He grew up, he was a Boy Scout leader, and his dad was a decorated Vancouver police sergeant. By all accounts, he was just a normal family man, no red flags or no typical warning signs that anybody talks about. It was later discovered that one of the reasons that the police never caught him after he was making all those phone calls is because he would actually jump back into his car, and he often brought his 2 small children with him. So think about it. I mean, who would suspect a man in a car with 2 kids as the killer? And even though he had confessed to the crimes in the letter he wrote, the one that was attached to the wrench that was thrown through the window, he was now saying that he did not attack Tanya and Misty. He just happened to come upon them after they had been attacked. Sure, buddy. Anyway, he claimed that they were already unconscious and that he couldn't resist having sex with Tanya. Really? Seriously? He said that he panicked because now his DNA was on her, and he had put them both into the car. He threw Tanya into the river and drove Misty to the emergency room. Now, clearly nobody was buying this story because all of the evidence, all of the phone calls, everything told a very different story. And the fact that Misty was able to testify as well. The judge in the trial felt the same way, and Terry Driver was found guilty of the rape and murder of Tanya Smith and the assault on Misty Cockerell. He was sentenced to life in jail without parole for 25 years. In 2000, he was declared a dangerous offender for the attacks on 2 other women. This case was horrific and senseless, and to think, it really only came to an end because a mother recognized the voice of her son on those recordings. I can't even imagine what was going through her mind. But had she not contacted the police, I can only guess and speculate that his taunting and his crimes would have escalated. And that's it for today's case file. Remember, I talk about all kinds of true crime here, so if you haven't already, please hit that little subscribe button down below. And if you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up on your way out. I always appreciate it. I hope you are doing well and staying safe. And until next time, lots of love from Calgary.